Hi, welcome to Living Your Limitless Life. I'm Kayleigh Kennedy, business and mindset coach, mom, and your no BS guide to breaking through the stories holding you back. This podcast is your space to get real, get inspired, and get moving. Each week, I'll share the mindset shifts, strategies, and stories that have helped me and my clients build lives and businesses that feel as good as they look. If you're ready to stop playing small and start living big, you're in the right place. Let's go. Hello and welcome back to Living Your Limitless Life. I'm Kayleigh Kennedy and I'm really glad you're here today because today's episode, we're going there. And we're talking about the thing that sits underneath almost everything. The thing that, if I'm honest, I've spent the better part of my career helping people untangle. We're talking about self-worth. And I know some of you might have a reaction to that word. Maybe you rolled your eyes a little. Maybe you thought, okay, I came here for business strategy, not a therapy session, but I want you to stay with me. Stay with me for this episode. Because what I want to do today is completely reframe your perception of what self-worth actually is, how it shows up in your life and in your business, and why, if you want to earn more money or lead better or grow in a way that actually feels good for you and in your life, that this is the work that you need to do. This is actually the most common thing that I work on with my clients. They don't come to me asking for help with their self-worth. They come to me because they want to scale their revenue. They want to step into bigger leadership. They want to grow their business without feeling completely exhausted by it. And somewhere in those early conversations, we find it. And the thing that is underneath all of the strategy, the thing that's underneath it all, we find their self-worth story. And these stories are different for everyone. I would say almost every time they're surprised. I want to normalize this today. I want to help you see if you are living in it, if you are living in a self-worth story that is no longer serving you, no longer serving where you want to go. And I want you to leave this episode knowing something incredibly important, that this is not a flaw. It's not a life sentence. It's a pattern, and patterns can change. So I want to start off, first off, by getting us all on the same page about what self-worth actually means. Because this term does get thrown around a lot. And I feel like sometimes it gets confused with other things. People can confuse self-worth as confidence, and it's not the same thing. Confidence can be situational. You can be confident in your expertise and in your offer and what you do in your business, but still hesitate when it's time to charge what you're worth. You can be confident in your ability to deliver results, but you can still shrink when you're in rooms with bigger players, different people. I would say self-esteem is closer to self-worth because that's how you evaluate yourself overall. But at the root of it, self-worth goes deeper than this. It goes deeper than both of those. Self-worth is the subconscious belief about whether you are inherently deserving. That could be deserving of success, recognition, ease, being in certain rooms, being around different people, building the business that you want to build. Self-worth actually has nothing to do with what you've done or your results. It doesn't have anything to do with your title or your bank account, but so many people make those things tie together. And for a lot of high achieving people that I work with, these are entrepreneurs and leaders and founders, this belief is fractured. It's not broken, but it's fractured. And that fracture creates an invisible ceiling. So you can work harder and harder. You can hit goal after goal. You can build something genuinely impressive, but still feel like it's not quite enough or like you're not quite enough. That can be confusing because on the outside, everything looks like it's working. Or it can be the opposite of that. You can tie your worth to your results or to your outcome. So in order to feel worthy, you have to hit those milestones. You have to hit those goals. You create self-worth as something external and not something internal. So your worth and how you feel about yourself, it always is relying on something that ultimately is outside of your control. Self-worth has been a big one for me, and it is something that I've been actively working on ever since I became aware of my self-worth stories about 6.5 years ago when I first started working with my mindset coach, and I realized the patterns that I was continuously finding myself in, never feeling fulfilled, always looking for the next thing, always looking for external validation, spending most of my life, like since elementary school until adulthood, trying to just fit into places that I didn't want to be in, but I thought I had to be in there for recognition or popularity or just to get people to like me. That was a big one for me. So these patterns had been showing up over and over and over in my life, into adulthood, into the people that I surrounded myself with. It actually wasn't until I met my now husband, so this would be 16 years, just over 16 years ago, and I saw how his relationship was with his friends, how they could just be themselves, and I always felt like I had to mold and shape myself into the environments that I was in. Like, assimilate might have been my favorite word. I could assimilate into anything, but that's not necessarily a good thing when you're abandoning yourself every time that you're shape-shifting to be into these environments. And so I met him and he saw me for me, not who I was or who I hung out with or what I did or, what my parents did or what I'd accomplished in my life or the places that I traveled or the car that I drove or any of these things, which honestly don't really matter, but to me they mattered. And he saw me for who I was, and he started to show me that that is more important than fitting myself and shrinking myself to fit into these places that I don't fit and that don't treat me the way that I deserve to be treated. Because that was another big thing for me. I didn't think I deserved actually for the first couple years of my relationship, I didn't think I deserved even to be loved the way that he loved me. And that's something that I had to work on. And, so I was working on this in my personal life, but then I became an entrepreneur. And this is where that hit me again. With always trying to prove myself, always trying to be someone perceived ahead of where I was. Mm, Like the car I drive, for example. Like I bought my Mercedes because, because I thought it would make it mean something differently about myself. I now, don't get me wrong, I do love my car and I love driving around in my car. But now that I look back on it, I bought that car for all the wrong reasons. I thought that I could materialize my self worth in my business, and it doesn't work that way. It has to be an inside job. This is something that I'm still actively working on. It's so much stronger than it used to be, but it's still a work in progress because this shit is deep. And you listening to this episode, this shit might be deep for you too. Like so many patterns. I know for me, and I'm not going to get into this because this isn't a let's examine all of my childhood trauma episode, but I can pinpoint some moments in my childhood and in experiences that impacted my worth because of how I perceived those experiences. So they weren't even the experiences themselves, they were my perception of it. And because my perception was always coming from a place of low self worth, any experiences that reiterated that just made that thought stronger for me. So I kept trying to fix my self worth by achieving more, and didn't doesn't work that way. You actually achieve more and in a way that is more aligned when you fix your self worth first. But we are taught to do it backwards. We're not programmed to do it that way. Here is the sneaky thing about low self-worth because it usually doesn't look the way people expect. I think sometimes like my story that I just shared, that is the expected way for low self-worth to show up, but it doesn't always look like that. It doesn't always look like someone hiding in the corner. It doesn't always look like the person who's doing all of the things and achieving and producing and building and then still feeling hollow inside. For me, that misalignment was always appearing to be confident and having this kind of big external personality and image and then feeling so small inside. It didn't match. It was exhausting. So exhausting. And the interesting thing about self-worth, and that's why it's actually more complex, is it shows up in different ways for different people. Now, when you start seeing the patterns and start seeing your patterns, you can't unsee them. This is the beautiful thing about awareness is you can't undo awareness. And so once you become aware of something, then You have the knowledge once you look at it objectively, which if you have a low self-worth story, it's hard to look at yourself objectively. I know that too. I spent a lot of time really struggling to look at my beliefs and behaviors objectively. I used to beat myself up. I was my hardest critic, as most of us are. And when you start to see these patterns and realize, oh God, that's me. I want you to not treat it as like a checklist of shame, because that's another emotion that I think can come up for a lot of people when you start to examine your self-worth. I want you to treat these awarenesses as a mirror and just notice what lands. So I'm going to share some of the ways that I see self-worth showing up for a lot of my clients. And I just want you to notice what lands for you and not judge it, just notice it. That's the first step to making these changes and making these shifts. So maybe you are one of those people who undercharge and overdeliver. I also used to be this person. You price your work based on what you think people will say yes to, not based on your value. You don't actually charge what you want to charge. You often add a lot of extras, extra calls, extra support, extra hours, because somewhere inside there's a feeling that you have to earn the right to be paid. So you give and give and give, and eventually you resent it. That's a way self-worth plays out in real time. Another way self-worth shows up is always needing external validation to feel okay. That was also me. I think I was all of these at one point in my life. So again, like, just validate that you're not alone. If you're like, oh shit, I'm all of these. So was I, and it's okay because you can heal that. When you're seeking constant validation, you're always looking for something outside of yourself to make yourself feel okay. So in business, that could be the sale or the 5-star review or client testimonials, or looking for something that is external to you to validate your value, essentially. And if that praise stops, even if it just stops briefly, if you have a dip in business, if, your clients aren't texting you that you change their life every single day, things start to feel shaky and you start to question yourself. You question your offers, you question your goals, you question your direction, you question your ability. But what you're really, really experiencing here is that your nervous system is outsourcing your sense of worth to other people. And if you keep doing that, that is worth from outside, not inside. You want your self-worth to come inside. So it doesn't matter what kind of validation or results you're achieving. You inherently know that you're worthy. Here is another big way that self-worth shows up. And this is a really sneaky way, and this is a really big way. I see this in so many people. I've also experienced this in myself. And this is how self-worth stories can create massive self-sabotage. Maybe things are going well and momentum's building in your business, and then suddenly something happens. You procrastinate on something, you talk yourself out of something, you stop posting, you stop doing the things that you were doing to get you to where you are achieving that results and that momentum. Maybe you start picking fights, you start being a little bit more testy, you could get sick, you could blow up the thing that was about to be really, really good. You don't give it enough time. This is not random. This is your subconscious doing exactly what it's wired to do. It's keeping you at the level that right now you believe you deserve. There's no coincidences. This one can be a hard pill to swallow because this is the sneaky one. Self-worth is an identity. It isn't your ability, it's your identity. It's how you see yourself, how you perceive yourself, how you perceive yourself to be deserving and worthy no matter what. No matter where you came from, no matter what you've experienced, no matter what your results have been in the past, no matter what your results are right now, you have that inner certainty, inner self-trust in your identity that builds a certain resiliency that is needed in business. Here's some other ways that it shows up. Maybe you are shrinking in rooms that you've earned the right to be in, that you deserve to be in. You get a seat at the table, and maybe you're sitting there thinking about how you hope that nobody at the table figures out that you don't belong there. Imposter syndrome, that's a way that self-worth shows up. That's a way that self-worth self-sabotages. That is a self-worth story. Sometimes the self-worth can show up as making everything harder than it has to be. And this is a subconscious belief that so many people carry, and it's often also around like what we achieve and our like financial success in business is that struggle equals worth, that if it comes too easily, it doesn't count. So you're actually, without realizing it, you create friction and you make things more complex than they have to be. And you create drama and you create stories in your mind that aren't reality because somewhere along the line, you learned that you have to suffer first to deserve good things. So if any of these hit, if any of these resonated, if all of them resonated, you're not broken. It's okay. They're all essentially traced back to the same root belief of I am not quite enough. And until that belief changes, no amount of strategy will fix it. I see this all the time. Someone comes to me, they work with me because they want to grow their business, they want to make more money, they want to lead at a higher level. They maybe they do want a new strategy too, and we absolutely do that. But what we very, very quickly see is that strategy isn't the ceiling, it's the subconscious belief that is the ceiling. You cannot outperform your belief system. And go back to last week's episode where I talk about this. You can have the best offer, the best marketing plan, the best sales funnels, the best positioning, the most followers, the biggest email list. But if there's part of you that doesn't believe you deserve the thing you're building, you will find a way to not build it, and it will be sneaky. There could be a belief that says people like me don't make that kind of money, and you stay in comparison. There could be certain patterns that continue to show up for you when success and your goals get close. A lot of people resist this work at first because I'm not a therapist. People come here for business coaching, not to heal their childhood trauma, which is fair. But when we start shifting that root belief and not just changing the behaviors on the surface, that's when everything moves. And that's when you can achieve more and you have the nervous system capacity to hold more. And it gets to feel more easeful, not because the strategy or anything changes, because the person who's running the strategy changed, their belief system changed. I have a client right now. I actually had a call with her earlier this week, and she said that she's like, well, I came to you to build my business, and now we're dealing with all of this personal shit. And the business has grown, but she also has that awareness of, I know in order to get to my next level and to do it in a way where I'm not burnt out, because her old default setting is work 7 days a week and sacrifice herself to get shit done. She has that awareness, but we're going deep, and a big thing that we're working on right now is self-worth. And I want to celebrate some of her wins with you because I want you to see how this can show up and how you can start to make these shifts in real time. So this client in particular used to bend over backwards for her clients. If she had a client reach out to her for something last minute, even if she had something booked, even if she had an appointment booked, or she actually more recently she had like a Pilates class scheduled. And her client reached out to her and she said, no, I'm actually not available at this time, and gave them other options, which terrified her because her old default setting is like, oh yeah, I can skip Pilates and do this. Like, that's fine. And it was fine. Like everything went well, and they moved the time, and she got to fulfill this contract with this client and also go to her Pilates class. That's a self-worth thing. Or just knowing that you don't have to respond to everyone right away. That can also be a self-worth thing. This is a practice that I've implemented, and I know actually this client, many of my other clients have as well, is like taking time for yourself before you start your workday. So going for a walk or doing something productive, especially if, like me, you have children, young children, and your morning is often even if I wake up early and have a little bit of me time before the kids wake up, it's still chaos getting the kids out the door. So instead of just diving right into the to-do list, I do something for me. I go for a walk. I'm not consuming anything. It's just me and nature and my dogs, and um starting to incorporate those habits. But Often our programming will tell us that if I'm doing something like this for me before I get through my to-do list, I'm being unproductive or I'm being lazy. Like, how dare I rest when I have shit to do? Anyone else? Does anyone else relate to that one? So it's these shifts that we've started making together. The cool thing is her business is growing and she's working less and she's working more intentionally and she's taking care of herself. That's an identity shift. And the revenue result comes from that identity shift. She will achieve her goals and she will achieve her goals in a way that's not going to burn her out. That's her new normal. That can be your new normal too. But it has to start with changing that identity shift, changing that belief shift that you're deserving and that you're worthy of. So I want to say something very clear here. If any of this or if all of this resonated, I don't want you sitting there thinking, well, that explains everything and I guess I'm just broken. Because you're not broken. The beliefs that are running this pattern were created for a reason. Earlier in life, you learned something about yourself and your worth. Maybe it was something someone said. Maybe it was through the environment you grew up in. Maybe it was through relationships, friendships, coaches. And maybe that experience taught you that you have to earn your place or that you have to be more than enough or that your value comes from what you produce. And maybe that belief helped you once. Maybe it drove you. Maybe it protected you. Maybe it pushed you to achieve. But here's the thing. You're outgrowing that belief. You haven't updated the system yet, the program yet. So it keeps running in the background. And the subconscious doesn't respond to logic. You can't talk yourself out of a belief with just a list of evidence. It's a tool. It's a tool that I do use with my clients, but it's not the end all be all. This is why affirmations alone don't work. Because you're trying to override a subconscious pattern with the conscious mind, and the subconscious will win that fight every time. Real change happens when you rewire the belief at the level where it lives. That's your subconscious mind. That's your nervous system. That's the work that I do. That's the work that I'm actively still doing on myself. It's a practice. It takes time. Some of these beliefs are deep. Most of them aren't even yours. It's subconscious reprogramming. It is the most powerful thing that I've ever experienced in my life, but also that I get to witness with my clients. Because when someone actually begins to feel worthy, everything changes. The way they show up in their business changes, the way they price their work changes, what they achieve, how they show up for their family, the way they respond when something happens unexpectedly or something goes wrong. The ease that starts to enter their business when everything else used to feel forced. That's the shift, and that's available to you too. So here is what I want you to take away from this episode. Self-worth is not a soft topic. And this year in this podcast, I'm going to be talking a lot about self-sabotage. This is probably not the only episode where I'll talk about self-worth because it is the foundation that everything you're building is resting on. And if that foundation is cracked, you're going to keep hitting ceilings that have nothing to do with your skill, your strategy, or your effort. And if you've been doing all the things and working hard, trying everything, and still feeling like something is blocking you, it might be this. Actually, it probably is. And that's not a failure. It's just an invitation. So I'm gonna be talking about this a lot this season. Follow me on social media. Tons of content that I'm constantly sharing there. I have free resources available. Those are all linked in the show notes. There are a ton of tools that you can use to support this deeper work. So if any of this or all of this resonated with you, just stay close. Make sure you're subscribed. If you want to talk about this, my DMs are always open. But before you go, I want to leave you with this question. What would the version of you who truly believed they were worthy do next? Go do that today. See you in the next episode.
Thanks for tuning in to Living Your Limitless Life. If you loved this episode, please subscribe, leave a review, and share it with a friend. It would mean the world to me. Plus, it helps more people find my show and we can create a bigger impact together. Until next time, keep dreaming big, taking bold action, and remember, nothing changes if nothing changes. See you next time.